Okay, so we're diving into some really fascinating new research today. It looks into this, well, pretty chilling connection between rising temperatures and, believe it or not, the world's deadliest animal. And yeah, it seems like the heat might actually be giving them a serious leg up when they're hunting for their next meal, which is us.
So, this really all boils down to one big question. As our world gets warmer, are mosquitoes actually getting better at hunting us? I mean, what does a hotter planet really do to a mosquito's most powerful weapon, which is its incredible sense of smell? Well, some researchers set out to answer exactly that, and what they found is pretty wild.
All right, so first things first. To really get why this research is so important, especially on this one type of mosquito, the Aedes aegypti, you gotta remember, we are not just talking about some annoying bug you swat at during a barbecue.
No, seriously. The World Health Organization calls them the deadliest animals on Earth. And that is not an exaggeration. This specific species we're talking about, Aedes aegypti, is the one that carries these absolutely devastating diseases, things like dengue, yellow fever, Zika. So you can see understanding how they behave isn't just some academic exercise. It's a massive public health issue.
So the question becomes, how does temperature even affect an insect's biology like that? I mean, what's the mechanism here? Well, it all starts with this one simple concept that makes them fundamentally different from you and me.
Right, so they're poikilothermic. Big word, I know, but it just means cold-blooded. See, unlike us mammals, we're always burning energy to keep our bodies at a nice, steady temperature. Mosquitoes, they can't do that. Their internal thermostat is basically controlled by whatever the temperature is outside.
And this is the key thing to get. Because they're cold-blooded, even a small change in the air temperature has a huge, direct impact on everything they do. We're talking their metabolism, how fast they can fly, and, this is the big one for our story, how well they can smell. So with that in mind, the researchers came up with their big hypothesis, right? The guiding idea for their whole experiment. They basically asked, okay, what if higher temperatures actually make mosquitoes more sensitive, more responsive to the smells that lead them straight to us? Okay, so that's the theory, but how on earth do you actually test that? Well, this is where it gets really clever. The scientists set up two different experiments to figure out exactly how temperature messes with a mosquito's behavior when it smells something. And what they did was pretty ingenious. They basically separated two key things. On one hand, you have the tethered flight arena. Think of this as the gym. It just measures raw power, like how fast their wings are flapping. Then you have the free flight Y maze. This is more about decision making. The mosquito gets to fly around and actually choose which path to take based on the smells. All right, so here's the moment of truth. What happened when they cranked up the heat? They tested at a cool 20 Celsius, that's about 68 Fahrenheit, and then all the way up to a toasty 30 Celsius, or 86 Fahrenheit. And let me tell you, the results are pretty dramatic. Okay, first, just look at how active they were. Check out this chart. At that cooler temp, that little bar on the left, only about 5% of the mosquitoes even bothered to fly. They were just chillin'. But then you jump to the warmest temp, that bar on the right, and wow, almost 65% of them were up and flying around. That is a huge jump, like a 12-fold increase in mosquitoes that are actually out looking for something. And it's not just that more of them were flying, they were flying harder. Get this. At the warmest temperature, their wings were flopping over 500 times a second. Can you even imagine that? That's way faster than in the cooler air. So they weren't just more motivated, they literally had more power. So what were they hunting for? Well, this chart says it all. Their attraction to CO2, the name gas that we all breathe out, it just skyrocketed at that warmer temperature. That's the biggest come here signal for a mosquito. You can see their preference for it was 5 times stronger than it was in the cold. It's like they were totally locked onto the target. But here's the twist, and this is what I find really fascinating. It wasn't just the good smells that got stronger. Their repulsion from DEET, the stuff in most bug sprays, also got way stronger. So when it was warmer, they were much, much better at detecting the repellent and staying away from it. So the big takeaway here is really, really important. The heat doesn't just make them hungrier for us. It's more like it turns up a volume knob on their entire sense of smell. Everything just gets louder to them, both the good smells, like us, and the bad smells, like bug spray. Okay, so that's the lab. But what does this all mean for us, out here in the real world?
what are the implications of a mosquito with super senses on a planet that's getting warmer? Well, the research paints a pretty clear picture. In a warmer world, we're likely going to be dealing with more mosquitoes that are actively out hunting. And not only that, they're more efficient hunters. Obviously, that could have huge consequences for how diseases spread. But then there's that silver lining, that double-edged sword. Because their senses are dialed up, they're also way more sensitive to the repellents we use. And that really leaves us with this final, crucial question, doesn't it? This research isn't just about a scary problem. It might actually be pointing us toward a solution. If we know exactly how heat amps up a mosquito's senses, can we use that knowledge to design smarter traps and maybe even better repellents, specifically for the warmer world we're heading into?